The T-Row Show. Transmitting truth. One week at a time.
Welcome to the T-Row Show with your hosts Keith, Stu, and Tony. We have a few updates on the websites. We've got Government of the United States of America .international website. That's all been updated. All the links are good. And generalpost.info, that has been updated, and all the links are good there. And we've added a few links on a lot of the new websites we have as the government is expanding and the services are expanding. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we've got a couple of, or not a couple of, at least 5 different subjects we want to cover on this program today. By the way, we do appreciate the new subscribers. We have over 100 new subscribers just for in the last 2 weeks, and we do appreciate people spending the time. We try to keep it within an hour. Sometimes we go over just a little bit, an hour out of your week to stop and listen to the T-Row Show. So we really do appreciate it. Please share it with your friends. And we get a lot of comments, very positive comments on the on YouTube. So we do appreciate that. And that's at Government of the United States of America YouTube channel. I think one day we're just gonna create the T-Row Show YouTube channel, as far as this thing is getting bigger and bigger. Okay, now we have a couple of interesting stories that you might want to hear, and they are true stories. And Stu's having some issues, folks, so if you hear any noise in the background or anything, that's what's going on. It's going back and forth. For some reason it got...
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm having a little trouble holding a connection.
Okay, all right. Okay. Now, we have, I don't know how many articles on AmericanHerald.org. RainInTheHeavens.com and is the Rain in the Heavens Society Post. That particular website syndicates through a bunch of different websites and other newspapers and things like that. So if AmericanHerald.org doesn't have its own story, it's syndicated into whatever stories are coming from Rain in the Heavens Society Post are syndicated over to American Herald. So we have a lot of stories on the AmericanHerald.org. And both of them are legitimate newspapers. Their subscribership is way over the required amount to be international or national newspapers. So this one story is the only story that gets comments off the whole website. We have over 200 stories on this thing, 250, 300 stories or articles or publications or international public notices on the website, and this one keeps getting comments almost every week. And it really bugs people. And I've been sitting watching this, and I just go ahead and because I run all the websites, I just go ahead and approve the comments and just let it go, just see how far it's going to go. It was even attacked by the New York City Hall, New York City's. This story, it drives people crazy. And the story is about an illegal lane change that got out of hand. And they moved the video a couple of times, by the way. You have to go back and find it. They've moved the video of this altercation between a police officer and a girl, a woman. I don't know if she's a girl, woman, or just a very short woman, or tiny woman, because her voice sounds like she's about 12 years old. And people are constantly attacking her. And the thing is why are you going up? Here's some of the comments. Let me just read some of them. It's hilarious to watch these comments. It says, I can't believe you're defending this girl. As you say that on person who commented was a danger to society and another needed a psych evaluation. Who the heck are you making these Who in the heck are you to make these determinations? People like you are the ones encouraging the behavior this nut job exhibited. And this girl wasn't tortured as you claim. I know that what real torture is, and that wasn't it. You need to your head examined, and you owe this outstanding police officer an apology. Okay, that's just one. It drives people crazy. It was answered with, no one is taking sides and not defending anyone, simply making observations as a part of freedom of the press. This article was published a year ago. The video has been removed from YouTube. Isn't it a little late to start making one-sided demands designed to show your allegiance at the expense of others? Then another guy comes up. Video's still up on YouTube. 99% of what you have wrote is pure nonsense and void of any facts pertaining to this incident. And most of these are coming from New York. And it says, you are not making observations. You out and out lie. You're another pathetic free inhabitant with a keyboard. Okay. And then Mr. Wedford, that was Mr. West Ford. Okay. And then we figured out his IP address is the Brooklyn Bridge, New York City Hall. And believe me, all these things are coming from New York. All these scenarios. The whole thing is no one knows or even talks or comments about what is in the article. The article is not necessarily talking about this woman or whether the altercation was right or wrong. It's not talking about that at all. What it's talking about is pain compliance. And it was...
They don't want that secret out.
Huh?
I said they don't want that secret out.
There you go. It was talking about pain compliance and the fact that pain compliance is, in fact, torture. It's defined as torture. And the whole article talks about that. It's not talking about whether this woman had the right to do what she was doing. It wasn't about defending her and what she was doing. It wasn't about doing anything other than pain compliance. So it says, woman argues laws don't apply to her because she's a free inhabitant. Watch how well that goes over with the officer. Now, what they do is they, because that's on there, they focus on the woman and, oh, she's just crazy, trying to challenge us. We'll show her. Okay, that's their attitude. That's the attitude you get when you're dealing with this. Okay, and there's a hidden agenda here, and we today we want to expose that hidden agenda. What's really behind all these? Man thinks he can't go with this. You know, that kind of attitude. How dare you come against us? And there's a bigger...
We've got the uniforms and badges.
Well, not necessarily that. It's the attitude behind the uniform and badge, because some really good police officers, I've seen them that have been in there for 36 years. Okay, there was one that was in for 36 years. And I'll give you a good example. He'd been on the beat for a long time. Well, he knows this one guy that drives a private company truck. He just delivers for him. And he knows the guy's been having trouble with his wife. This was in New York, by the way. He's been having trouble. His wife's been fighting with him and all this, and they're having some money problems and all this other kind of stuff. So this guy's regularly getting drunk. Money problems by alcohol, doesn't make any sense, but that's what he's doing. Trying to escape his problems and all this kind of thing. Well, this cop knows this. And that's a real police officer. I'm not talking about the guys that they cookie cutter today. Okay, I'm talking about real guys, real cops. And he knows the guy's drunk, so he pulls him over. And he says, all right, man. He says, give me your keys. I don't want any argument. Give me your keys. So the guy gives him his keys. I'm not even going to argue whether you're drunk or not, because I know you are. So what we're going to do is you're going to get out of the truck. I'm going to take your keys. You're going to go home. You're going to sleep this off. When you're ready, you come back and get your keys. He kept the keys. That's a real cop. And if you don't listen to me and you start arguing with me, it's going to be $5 to 10 grand when we go to court. But right now, I understand your situation. So give me your keys, and then when you come back, we're going to talk. And when he came back, and this was on YouTube, I watched the whole story on it. He was a good cop. He said, the guy said he knew he was wrong. He knew what was going on. He apologized to him. He really appreciated what he did, and he agreed to go to marriage counseling. No DUI on his record. He can still work and support his family. But it's because that cop was so cool and he knew and understood what was going on, and he had what they called empathy for others. See, pain compliance on others, that's a lack of empathy in the individual imposing that. But he could have ruined this guy's life, and he didn't. Because why? Because he's a real cop. He's a real police officer. He didn't have to call in and ask what to do. He didn't have to go to a lawyer and ask what to do. He knew what to do because it was the human thing to do. And there's a larger, sinister plan behind this. Desensitizing people to the plight of others. And
yeah, I can vouch for some research I stumbled upon a year and a half, 2 years ago, where they circulated targets for police academies, the shooting ranges, that rather than actual bullseyes or sometimes they have the cutouts, the shadow human form. They were actual pictures, and the pictures consisted of old men, pregnant women, kids. I'm sure that information is still available on the internet, and that's directly tied to desensitizing the officer in the street. Right.
Exactly, and we're going to show you guys exactly how that happens and who's behind it. If that police officer that did that, okay, the guy's been on the beat for a long time, and he did that, and I knew about it, and I knew who that guy would probably never pay for another meal, and he would never know who paid for it. So we couldn't call it a bribe. It would be donated. That man would be taken care of like you wouldn't believe, because he gives a crap about people. That's a real cop. And if he was ever being shot at, trust me, there would be many, many guns at the individual who was shooting at him. They're pointed that guy's, that perpetrator's direction. Guys like that are very rare, and you protect those guys. However, this particular individual who was doing, the officer uses the term pain compliance on Mark 431. Now, this is not that police officer's fault. He was taught that in training. It's the people that train them. It's their fault. Because they're issuing training in classes on pain compliance, which is an international crime form of torture. It's an Article 3 issue. There's also, and the reason why, now I know why there's so many people going after this. Okay, I found that the United Nations, and they call it the Pain Compliance and the Human Rights Act, they're debating this, pain compliance and condemning it. By the way, in the video, the vehicle, it was registered. He didn't have to tow the vehicle. It was registered and insured according to the newspaper sources. So there was no reason to in any way, shape, or form to tow the vehicle. So that was redundant. There was no reason for that. The officer started an investigation without probable cause to do so. There was no weapons in the car. No accident had occurred. No alcohol, no illegal drugs. The automobile was not being used as a weapon endangering public safety. No aggressive driving. The automobile did not fit any description of being used in a bank robbery or any other crime. There were no wants or warrants. Nothing. However, the officer used the terms impeding an investigation and paying compliance. The American Herald agrees that the conflict is easy to make fun of if there's an individual that is benefiting from the violence of the people protecting them. So sacrifice and possession, cannibalization in the American society. Now, paying compliance is a euphemism for the use of torture to control a person or animal. The stimulus can be manual, brute force, placing pressure on pain areas, or use of painful hyperextension or hyperflex on joints. Use tools such as whip or electroshock weapon. There's your tase gun. Or use chemicals such as tear gas or pepper spray. People didn't realize that pepper spray, folks, is a form of torture unless used in self-defense. So these two individuals in the car weren't attacking anyone. So you can't say that it was self-defense. It says the purpose of pain compliance is to direct the actions of the subject, and to this end the pain is lessened or removed when compliance is achieved. This provides incentive to the subject to carry out the action required. Now, folks, we're not trying to weaken the power of a police force to control the criminal elements of a society. That is not the intention in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, the government of the United States of America is extremely hard on people and criminals. Very strict. However, every time that strictness is applied, it is not for the purpose of torture or pain compliance. Torture is the act of deliberately inflicting severe physical or psychological pain and possible injury to an organism, usually to one who is physically restrained or otherwise under the torturer's control or custody and unable to defend against what is being done to him or her. This is over a driver's license, guys. That's all it is. The driver's license was being used for a political statement by these individuals. It's just a little card. The car was insured and registered and all that. It's no big deal. There was no responsible party doctrine being violated. It's just over a driver's license, which, by the way, was proven later by this government, or by the government of the United States of America, to be human rights violations, or not human rights compliant. Of which we have a program that we go over a human rights compliant driver's license. So, what needs to happen is go read the human rights compliant driver's license and fix it. Fix the problem. Don't sit there and argue over something that's a really dumb argument to try to argue against something that has been proven to be absolutely correct. That there is a sinister definition of the Convention on Road Traffic. But someone came in and twisted and turned that into something that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And subjects and imposes a lack of empathy to your fellow human being. It's the same with those Oregon cases where they've got over 150, if not more, elderly folks that have been pulled out of their homes, and all their crap is stolen and sold by the courts in the state of Oregon, and they're stuck in a home, and they're not allowed to see any of their family, especially if their family is protesting what happened. That is going on as we speak in the state of Oregon right now. Which brings up this other issue with the article. You were going to talk about the article on the raintheavens.com? It was the Trump article?
Yeah, that got published on the 6th, which was a couple days ago. And, it ties into the, most people know that Trump's trying to get the wall built, trying to secure illegal immigration. And so he put out the travel ban. And the travel ban was based on constitutional arguments. And the article at raintheavens.com addresses that and shows that for even the president can't bring the Constitution into the courts.
Yeah, read what happens. Read the article, if you don't mind.
Sure. Stand by. Okay, here we go. Gee, what a surprise. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you the headline. President Trump uses a constitutional argument in a federal court and is denied. Gee, what a surprise. The constitutional argument was used in a federal court and everything is overturned and the appeal has been denied. There's a link referencing that. What is next for President Trump? 1, he is now a sovereign citizen.
Stop
2,
right there, man. That is big.
Yep.
That's huge. Because anyone who brings any constitutional argument in any court, you just don't do that. You don't do it at state level, county level, appeals level, nothing. Federal, you don't bring Constitution in the courts. You simply don't do that. Go ahead, Stu.
Number 2, he will be accused of domestic terrorism without a trial.
Absolutely.
3, he will be slandered in the press as being a danger to society. 4, his driver's license will be arbitrarily suspended and subject to multiple fines. 5, police will drive by his house about 20 times per day, real slow, and call it surveillance.
Because remember, you're a danger to society because you brought a constitutional issue up in a court. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. 6, he will be buried in stacked charges. Yep. 7, he will endure multiple pullovers.
Absolutely. He'll be pulled over for sneezing wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, once you're in their system, it's not hard for them to find you. 8, he will be fully profiled on the SPLC website as being part of a hate group.
Absolutely, and they'll be made fun of. See, and they'll use this, okay? They'll do this attitude of, I can't believe they challenged us. We're so powerful, okay? That's the attitude, and that's how they write their articles. This crazy nut job. Go ahead.
Number 9, he will lose his job due to rumors of his political activity. 10, all paperwork and arguments will be ignored and called frivolous.
Are they not trying to impeach him?
Oh, they're definitely going after him. Definitely.
Okay, they've trashed him as a danger to society. Have they not done that? This is actually true.
Yeah.
They've already trashed him as a danger to society. They want to impeach him because of his political activities.
Yeah, he's bucking the.
They trash him in the news every day.
Yeah, he's bucking the communist system, and they're not digging it.
Bringing up a constitution. Go ahead.
Item 11. Most of the paperwork will be lost and never filed. Number 12. A local war of attrition will be waged against him.
That's exactly what they're doing.
13. His children will be taken by Child Protective Services.
That will be next.
14. His destiny will be determined in a private meeting, and he will be noticed of the outcome in a show trial.
Absolutely.
That is the beginning of his nightmare for bringing up a constitutional argument in a state or federal court. President Trump, you need to watch those so-called judges' statements. That will get you tased multiple times and tackled in a courtroom.
Stop right there. What we were talking about there, folks, is he was twittering this so-called judge. He put that on Twitter. He's tweeting it out to everybody. This so-called judge thinks that this, this, and this. He doesn't listen to the Constitution. You know, he starts arguing. He starts messing with them. Well, you use the word so-called judge, that's what's going to happen to you. You get tased and tackled in the courtrooms.
That's what happened.
For people that have never heard about this before, but you don't think so? Go try it.
Exactly. I was going to say that. Yeah. I was going to say that's what happens to us.
Well, it did happen to us, but it doesn't happen to us anymore. But that is what happens to a lot of people that that start bringing up constitutional issues in courtrooms. Go to a traffic case, just for the hell of it. You get a ticket. Go fight it with a constitutional argument. See how far that gets you.
That would be a good wake-up call.
Yeah, a big wake-up call on what goes on there. You don't ever bring a constitution up in a courtroom, guys. When you start bringing that up, oh my God, your life's going to get turned around real fast. You are automatic enemy number one, and that especially if it's in the local area. Because see, they can hide a lot of that crap in the local areas. They can hide that from the state and federal, all the crap they do. But the state and federal knows what's going on. It's kind of a wink-wink situation, you know. Wink, wink. Yeah, we know what's going on, but we don't officially see it. We don't officially see what you've done. Go ahead, Stu.
It appears the rich and privileged are starting to experience what everyone else experiences every day in the courts. It's a wonderful wake-up call for the rich. President Trump, the White House is welcome to use the General Postmaster Council. A link is provided. You are welcome to use that court as it has authority over the borders. The General Postmaster Council does have exclusive and undisputed authority over the borders of the country. The White House is in need of reading the Creatures of the State series in this newspaper starting here, and a link is provided.
That's what happens, folks, when you have a private membership association running your court system. All of a sudden, you don't have control of your court system, because the private membership association is going to do one thing and one thing only: protect its constituents and or those people that it protects. And we'll go over that here in a minute. Okay, let's go with some issues that are actually kind of weird that people don't notice. The 9/11 issue. Okay, let's go with the official story, folks. Let's get let's set aside all the evidence that the fact that the buildings came down as a demolition. Let's put that aside. And there was actually just a couple of buildings that were being demoed. Let's put aside, or let's go to the official story that you had 19 hijackers, and I think 17 of them were Saudi. And we'll go with the official story that the Pentagon was hit by an airplane. Then we'll go with the official story that an airplane was crashed in Ohio. And we'll go to the official story that 2 airplanes were thrown into the towers. That's the official story. And the official story being Al-Qaeda was the one that did it. They were the terrorist group in Al-Qaeda, and that was linked to weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Let's just look at that, and let's pretend that it was all true. That's the official story. So Al-Qaeda did it. over a 10-year period, the Democratic Party has proven, or actually has confessed, that Al-Qaeda was funded by the U.S. There's your inside job. They showed you it was an inside job on the official story. They funded the terrorist group Al-Qaeda. Gave them weapons and everything else. And Al-Qaeda comes in and knocks the towers down. Number two, they were Muslim, and it was a Muslim terrorist act. And now people are in the streets fighting for, what? Religious rights for Muslims? It was discriminatory? They were the ones that attacked the towers. And ran airplanes into the towers. And those airplanes and the fire and everything knocked the towers down. That's the official story. So every time those people are in the streets fighting for the religious rights, so-called religious rights, of Muslims and Islam, are dishonoring the 3,000 people that died on 9/11. You're basically looking at your neighbor and spitting on them.
Yeah, and the funding of the Al-Qaeda is easily now, in 2017, easily pulled up on any type of internet search. There's all kinds of references to it as disclosure.
Yeah, I think Hillary did it. Hillary also disclosed it. That they were funding it. And nobody batted an eye. Tony, Stu, nobody batted an eye at that. Nobody said a word. They didn't, for some reason, didn't associate the confessions of Al-Qaeda being funded to 2001 9/11. It was like there was a mental break in between that time where people just didn't hit them that, wait a minute, the official story was blah, 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 blah. So who allowed the official story to be debunked so that they could confess later that, yeah, we were the ones that funded Al-Qaeda? And then there were stories coming out, well, Al-Qaeda was actually a computer program. There was all kinds of crazy stuff going out. And not 3 days later, after so-called 17 Saudis or whatever, 12 Saudis, however many there were, I can't remember, attacked the towers, Bush goes over to Saudi Arabia and starts bowing down to them. But most of the kids today, they're 18 to 21, don't remember any of that. So if you live through that time, you'll know that Al-Qaeda had blamed it, and that Al-Qaeda was being funded by Iraq, by Saddam Hussein with weapons of mass destruction. That was the official story. That was the testimony at the United Nations for the reason of going into Iraq.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, I was sitting out. Hell, I was watching that on television, and that was before they had HD,
Yeah.
and all that, and we only had like 4 or 5 channels. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. So they pretty much confessed over a very long period of time that the official story was in fact an inside job. So all these people were trying to go in all these other directions, trying to prove that it was an inside job when the official story was confessing that it was an inside job. Under international law, the ones who attack something, if you're going to do it, you ever notice on the news, they always say the group ISIS or the group Al-Qaeda, terrorist group, takes responsibility. Now, why do you think they have to do that? They claim responsibility for the attack. Because they're claiming their political rights. A terrorist attack is actually a political protest. That's why none of them really go to jail.
Very extreme, but yep.
Yeah, it's an extreme political protest. They changed the definition of it in order to make that happen. So people are saying, okay, that Islam has constitutional rights. They really don't, because they're not parties to the Constitution. So you can't come back and claim that they have religious rights, because they really don't, because they're not a part of that. They're not a part of any constitution other than their own. Okay, so you have to realize that, folks. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so here's the real issue on a lot of these, a lot of things that we're talking about today. The government of the United States of America, and this has been authorized to tell or say on the T-ROH show from the National Assembly, that the National Assembly is not, number one, against monarchs, and number two, it is not opposed to monarchs doing business within the United States of America. Not opposed to it whatsoever. Matter of fact, a lot of that's encouraged. What is a problem is when that monarch, through its charter that it's granted to a company, starts claiming territory that is not theirs, starts claiming that the citizenry and or the inhabitants or the people belong to that company as a citizen and subject to its laws. And the simple fact that the monarch hides who really owns the company under a Sun Tzu doctrine or whatever other doctrine they want to claim. Not even opposed. The government of the United States of America knows that France owns the Republic of Texas. Always has. That's why they have their embassies down there. They've always owned it. They also know that England does business here. Spain does business here over on the West Coast. All under the agreements and flags and everything of the Netherlands. Netherlands does business here all the time. Yet its world court doesn't have jurisdiction here. Does that make any sense? It does business here, but it doesn't. Its world court doesn't have any jurisdiction here. At least they say it doesn't. So we all know the truth. So it's best just to come out with it and say, yeah, we're a company. We're doing business over here. Great. Wonderful. Glad to have you. Shake your hand and move on. By the way, we got some products here. You want to trade? I like your stuff. You like my stuff. Let's do some trade. What's an issue with that? Why do we have to go through all this cloak and dagger crap? Hide who controls what and who owns what? Why has this game even been introduced into the international community? It's a stupid game. Why do you have to lie to millions of people and say, oh yeah, you guys are subject to us, so you can have a monopoly on something? When if you had a contract and you had the rights to it, and everything was good to go, That's just a normal way of doing business. Why are they going to impose upon your rights? Why would anybody impose upon your rights? Why wouldn't the government of the country that you're doing business in uphold your rights as a contractor? I don't get that. What has happened to people? Do you see where I'm coming from? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, all I can do is tie it to ultimate greed. Just there's no other explanation. I can't come up with one unless you're just thoroughly diabolical and you don't give a hoot about the human family.
Well, I think something that, I've been thinking about this since the show started, and I don't think a lot of people know that they're under pain compliance as we speak, and they don't even know it. And the reason that they are, under pain compliance is because they've seen videos, they've seen it in the news of what happens when you assert your human rights, when they're being violated. And when you assert those rights, the people that try to suppress those rights from you, they make an example out of you. And people see that, on the news networks, on social media. And so you don't want that pain. So you comply and you do whatever it takes so that you don't have that pain. And because people don't bother to read anymore, to research, they don't know that what they're trying to comply with is not required, especially when it's coming from a corporation. And if you can just replace the United States corporation with any other corporation that you know of, you'll see how ridiculous this pain compliance that's happening to everybody and everything else that's going on. You'll see how ridiculous it is. And when you start attacking people for asserting their rights, and you start quoting stuff that, it doesn't make any sense and it's not a fact, then you are contributing to that pain compliance. And that's what I've been thinking about that. That's why everybody attacks people that do that, because they're under pain compliance themselves and want to comply and not have any of that pain.
The backers of SPLC and other organizations, because there are many, were able to twist human rights into crimes. Because basic human rights is the birth of a new nation. All 30 articles. That's how a new nation is formed. Every right in there is in direct conflict with those and all those tactics that are used to keep an individual subdued under an oppressive state.
Yeah, I'd like to take a quick opportunity to build off of Tony's comments.
That's what I was doing.
Another thing that I think is a common occurrence that is a problem is the education level of human rights and of this concept of pain compliance, because the American society, members of the American society, they're looking for that immediate gratification. So what do? They go and they watch a YouTube video that's 3 minutes long, and it shows a pullover and then somebody being roughed up on the side of the highway with a police officer, and they say, oh, well, that's pain compliance. Well, yeah, it is, but there's other forms of pain compliance. Being put into a cell that's kept at 55 degrees. That's a form of pain compliance. Just like trafficking, the common thing when you try to research trafficking in persons, what do you come up with as your typical scenario that everybody's against? You know, the abduction of kids, the abduction of women, forced sex slaves, things like that. But there's other forms of trafficking. Just pulling someone into a court that doesn't have jurisdiction over them is trafficking. But you never hear about those things. So the American populace has to wake up. They have to begin to exert their intellect here a little bit and begin understanding the true environment that they're operating in. Hopefully that'll be helpful and spur some motivation on some people.
Well, they're operating a lot under the Treaty of Versailles. And that's a monarch's war against a republic form of government. Any government that does not believe in a monarch, they have come together under the Treaty of Versailles as a combatant situation. And kings, I mean, today the monarchs literally believe they're not subject to human rights or war crimes or anything like that. They believe themselves immune to all that stuff because they're a king. So why would they ever be charged with anything? Just because you can't be charged by your own subjects doesn't mean you can't be charged by another country. And the accusations can't fly that you are in violation of many, many human rights because of your treaty that declared war on any other form of government, whether it's communist, whether it's socialist, whether it's a republic, whether it's democracy. Doesn't matter what it is. They've declared war on it. It's a subjective point of view. No different than what Islam does or what any other form of communist regime does. Or a dictatorship. Same difference. So, by bringing up the many, many forms of pain compliance, pain compliance is it's a tactic to shut the witness up, to shut the victim up, to scare the victim to a point where they won't defend themselves and they're too afraid to say anything.
Right. And you see that play out almost every major case that is brought into the corporate media.
Yeah.
The victim's always the one that gets undressed and run through the mud,
Yeah,
the criminal,
destroyed.
Right. The criminal, they've got rights. We've got to protect those rights. Can't say anything about them. We got litigation ongoing. But the victim
can tear them up all day long.
Yep.
And that's conditioning for pain compliance, to say it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's called in Article 3 is a violation. It's called the Human Rights Act. They've actually made the Universal Declaration of Human Rights into an act. And I'm going to do a little bit more investigation about that. I think that's interesting that they did that. And this government might adopt it. I mean, we're subject to the body that made it. It just means we're adopting the idea and the act itself to be used as an enforcement tool within the government of the United States of America to protect the rights of people, get rid of the pain compliance issues, pain compliance problems. So there it is. Do we have anything else to bring up today? Oh, yes, we do. Now people will say, "Oh, we mentioned Islam. Oh God, oh my God, they're Islamophobics and blah blah blah. Oh, we mentioned them, or we said something about them. Oh my God." Okay, that's your training, by the way. That's your pain compliance training. This next is just an observation through a series of investigations internationally with other countries and working on issues and dealing with this issue in Europe. And by the way, Switzerland is finally coming around. They're starting to have whistleblowers come out. Read that this morning and state that and the migration or immigration thing was a real bad idea, and they can't keep up with the crimes being done by the migrants, and they're being silenced about that. There's a little bit more pain compliance. You say anything against them, we're going to silence you. Okay, that's pain compliance. We're going to torture you. That's pain compliance. That's why speech is the greatest power you have. The greatest human right you have. It's the divine right you have of speech. And they want to shut that up. That's pain compliance. If you don't shut that up, that's what Tony's also talked about with other forms of pain compliance. People have been taught today they can't even say the word Islam, okay? Unless it's massive worship and get on your knees. Well, we can criticize anyone we want because why? Because we have speech. And that's not going to be taken away. You're not going to take away the speech. Not going to happen. It's what we think is going on, or what I think is going on. It's my personal opinion. Okay, so this doesn't reflect on the T. Rose Show. This doesn't reflect on the government itself. Doesn't reflect on anything other than this is my personal opinion, based on what I've seen throughout many different factors. It never made any sense to me personally of why the women in Hollywood would be advocating for their own incarceration as an oppressed woman. Didn't make any sense to me at all.
Nope. Doesn't make any sense.
Unless, of course, they're on somebody's payroll.
Well, I couldn't imagine the amount of money that you'd have to pay somebody to say, yeah, you can oppress me and subject me to my head getting cut off or whatever the hell it is, or being beaten in public, going through that humiliation for looking at a boy, or being killed for looking at a boy. There's a couple in jail right now because of that. Killed their daughter for looking at a boy. So why would a Hollywood actress, the most liberal, shirt halfway off half the time, butt naked out on the beach, advocate to be put into a burqa? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everyone knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that Illuminati is there, and Illuminati is a devil-worshipping organization. Everyone knows that. I mean, that's common knowledge today. So why would Islam make a deal with the Illuminati? Or why are they supporting each other? Through the DNC, the Democratic Party. Why is this? Doesn't make any sense. Well, we go to the prisons. Okay, there's a lot of money to be made with immigration. They hold those immigrants in detention centers, and they get paid for it. $2.8 billion a year. Okay, $2.8 billion a year. Good to go. There's a little business involved here. But they know that if there are a lot of them that come in, and throughout history, eventually the whole country will turn Islam. Because they haven't even begun their protests. That happens at 11%. 11% or 20%, I think, if Islam or Muslims are 20% in your country, you're going to start seeing protests almost every day. Anything that violates their perception of Sharia and all that. That's a fact, guys. There's no prejudice about that. That's a fact.
They're using the Constitution to defend Sharia.
Yeah, which both of them are in conflict with each other. They're using they're using the U.S. Constitution to protect Sharia that hates the U.S. Constitution. Doesn't make any sense. So, that being said, the ones that I know that are diabolical in their plans, by the way, diabolical in their thinking, would be Illuminati. I remember telling a Muslim individual, guy from Islam, on LinkedIn, showed him the prisons article, and we had talked about it. I think it was on the 5th show or something like that. We had talked about the prisons and everything else. And he came back and said, man, I had no idea that this was about money. I said, yeah, someone's lying to you. And I'm telling you, he's pretty popular on LinkedIn. I was talking to him about it. We've had our arguments, too, back and forth. And he had no idea that the whole immigration thing was about money, about, putting people in detention centers and all that. The full plan is very clear. Take a look, folks. Go look around. There are viruses that specifically target Arab people. Specifically. That will kill them off in 3 days. It will kill millions in 3 days. Spreads like a virus. That's not a pun, by the way. Just mess around. So what better plan to get rid of everyone else that may have some type of claim to property or land? Use Islam to do it, to get rid of those people. Then release a virus on them, kill them all off, and now you got all the land for yourself. Something to think about. Thank you for listening to the T-Row Show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting it with all your subscriptions and subscribing to the channel. We do absolutely appreciate it, and we don't take that lightly. It's your host, Keith, and we'll bid you good day. Stu and Tony, if you would like to say goodbye.
See you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.